Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Good. Starting to get tired from the day? How are we doing? There we go. Awesome. All right. So I assume everybody here grew up on PBS. Is that right? Yes. Show of hands. Who grew up with Wishbone? Beautiful. Show of hands. Who grew up with Big Comfy Couch? Awesome. Well, we're going to have a great discussion about both of those today, and then at the end, we'll allow some of you to come up and ask your questions too, so start thinking of them now if you have any. But without further ado, let me introduce Alyson Court and Larry Brantley. Come on up, you guys.
It's okay. It's Sunday. We get it.
Saunter.
It's cool. We're all tired.
Oh, there's
Get
a microphone.
Take
on
a
the
seat.
If you're just standing there in the back, it's okay to come inside. You don't need a ticket or anything. Just come on in. It's fine.
Come check it out.
You're going to be fine. Everybody's
Come on
okay.
in.
Yes, all are welcome here. Yeah, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Okay.
Let's let everybody get in and take their seats. Welcome, guys. Welcome to our panel about PBS. Thanks for joining us. So I have here Alyson and Larry. I would love for both of you to introduce yourselves, talk about how you got involved with PBS and what you did with PBS a little bit. Give us some background for everybody here.
I don't know if anyone here is familiar with a show called Mr. Dress Up. It was a Canadian show, not dissimilar to Mr. Rogers. And it was on the state broadcaster in Canada, which is the CBC. So I was on that show for, from the time I was 11 years old. Yeah. I actually did follow that bird when I was 10 years old, so I'd already kind of dabbled in the world of PBS, but because it was a feature film, it didn't really quite count. But it was through my work on Mr. Dress Up that the creators of The Big Comfy Couch kind of started to realize that they thought I might make a good Lunette. They were also puppeteers on, does anybody know a show called Fraggle Rock?
Fraggle Rock fans, represent.
Yeah, so those are the brains behind Comfy Couch, were people who were trained with Jim Henson, rather. So one kind of led to the other. That's how I ended up doing a demo for The Big Comfy Couch. Originally, it was a show in Canada. Well, we always filmed in Canada, but it started on the air in Canada in 1993. And then in 1995, a couple of American PBS affiliates. We were never on nationally. We weren't a national show for PBS. So every year I would have to go to, was it the ABS? Is that what it was?
The VSDA.
Well, that was our convention that we were together,
Right.
but there was, remember how,
TCA.
whatever it was for the affiliates for PBS, like the small ones, and they would have their convention every year.
There's so many acronyms.
There's
I
so
lose
many
track.
letters.
So
That's
you'd
a
have
lot
to
of
try to
letters.
pitch the local affiliate PBS stations to pick you up as a separate show. So I remember having to do that every year to try to get the local stations to pick us up. And then, the rest has been history, but being a part of PBS in people's childhoods, I'm so grateful that it was a PBS show because so many people had access to it.
Awesome. Tell us about your experience with PBS. How did you get involved?
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Alyson Court, and it's really great to be here with you today. My name's Larry Brantley, and my PBS experience, and actually my career, began with a show called Wishbone. Thank you. I had never done voice work prior to that show. When they cast me, I thought they'd made a huge mistake, but I was very fortunate that they stuck with it. We pitched that show to all the major networks. All the major networks looked at the expense and said no. They looked at the fact that we were basically making little movies, and they thought that the production value was too high, if you can believe that. They thought that the material was too complicated and the kids wouldn't understand it. So all the major networks said no. The last people to get pitched were PBS, and they bought the show in the room, and that doesn't ever happen. So initially we had an order run for 5 episodes. That was it. That was going to be it. 5 episodes. And we were halfway through the 5th episode. I think it was lunch on a Friday when Rick Duffield, the creator of the show, and Betty Buckley, our line producer, stood up in front of all of us. There was a cast and crew of about 200 at that time, and announced that PBS had just ordered 35 more shows for a total of 40, but they want them all delivered at the same time and within a calendar year. And so we all collectively tightened our sphincters and got to work, because no one had ever done anything like that before, particularly not with the way we were shooting the show, shooting it on 16 millimeter film, original soundtrack, new cast every week, new sets every week. Only PBS stood up and said, we think this is a great idea. So, you know, I grew up on PBS like everybody else. For me, it was Sesame Street, The Electric Company, Zoom, all the fun stuff. So to be a part of that legacy was pretty awesome. I had no idea, none of us did, what ultimately was going to come of that show. I certainly didn't think I was going to be sitting on a couch with Allie talking about it 30 years later. But here we are, and we're very grateful for it.
That's amazing. You've both talked about it, but these shows have an amazing legacy. PBS has an amazing legacy. What does it mean to be part of that legacy to both of you?
Yeah, I mean, as Larry just said it, growing up, even though I'm Canadian, we got channels over the air. So my PBS station was from Buffalo, New York, Channel 17. So I grew up on all of the shows there too. Electric Company, Sesame Street, Captain Kangaroo, and
Zoom Z double O.
And yeah, so you know that you're getting quality children's programming with PBS. That's something that you can't argue against. So being a part of that, yeah, incredibly proud.
Yeah, I would simply add that that's sort of a dying breed of quality programming. One of the things I get a lot when I talk around the country is that adults who were children when our shows were popular and now have kids lament the fact that there's not a lot of programming like that on anymore, because it was always a place where the whole family could go and watch a show. There was always something there for everybody. And that really was the point of our show. I won't speak for others, but the dog was a bit of a wise ass for a reason. And the reason was we were also speaking to parents and to college kids and everything else. And we knew it. We're very cognizant of that. And kudos to PBS for giving us the latitude to do that. And again, and I can't stress this enough, they were like, no, we don't think you should write down to kids. We don't want you to dumb down these stories. So yeah, they will always be first and foremost in my heart.
I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Did you guys?
I wasn't even there, Allie. We talked about this.
I have the photos. Okay, we're not even going. Yeah. When you were doing the show, did you guys have, like, nowadays there's like 8 different early childhood educator consultants that are on the show. Did you guys have those?
We did not.
You want to know why the show? Oh, I shouldn't say this. I'm going to get in so much trouble. But honestly, children are absolutely able to follow a narrative story with a 3-act arc that doesn't have to be dumbed down and hold their attention. And I feel like it's sort of a chicken or the egg. I'm not sure that it's the children that we're getting dumber. It's because we're just putting out dumber content now, and we're driving everything that way. It's not the right direction to go, man.
No, Rick. So, quick plug here. Some of you already know this because I know some of you follow it. But last year, myself, Joey Stewart, who was an AD on the show, and Betty Buckley, our original producer, we all co-produced and directed a documentary film called What's the Story, Wishbone. It is about the making of the show. And it's going to be available for download everywhere on June the 10th. Thank you. It's the last 2 years of our lives. But Rick Duffield, to your point, Allie, who is the creator of the show, says in the show that when it came out in October of '95, the kids got it right away. Not everyone did, and by not everyone, he meant some parents. So there's like, well, I don't, where are all the bright colors, and where's the dancing anthropomorphic animal, No, the kids got it right away. Yeah. And so I think that's as much a legacy of that show as anything, is that we gave kids the benefit of the doubt, because why wouldn't you? And they didn't let us down. Yeah. And to listen to my 10-year-old nephew explaining Don Quixote to my sister who didn't get it was one of the most satisfying moments of my life.
Mic drop on that one. That's awesome.
Honestly. When I came out here and I asked the audience who grew up with Wishbone or who grew up with the big comfy couch, everybody raised their hands. It raised all of them. Yes, see, everybody raised their hands.
Yeah, but you're leaving.
Call them out.
Yeah, you are too, quitter. Anyway, I'm kidding.
So everyone was raised with this. Have you had some meaningful fan interactions or people who have come up to you and told you their story about their experiences with the show that you'd like to share?
Throwing
it to you first.
Listen, those stories go the full gambit over the years. There have been stories of the parents have shared with me about their children who loved the show and the children died, and it runs the gambit. I was just invited to somebody's wedding last week because I was in Sudbury, and I went.
Okay.
Never met them, but she was a huge Comfy Couch fan, so I crashed her wedding.
I love that.
Retro Kid was so nice. They gave me a Molly doll to give to her. The adventure has been phenomenal. From being a wish for Make-A-Wish kids. It's like you can't begin to share everything. But I will say one of the common things that comes out from the people who grew up with the show is, growing up, either we didn't have a lot of money or it was just a very strict household. Whatever it was, PBS was one of the only stations they had access to. And these shows were their comfort zones, and that, it's such this solid, safe place in their lives. Yeah. And it's just so important that PBS continue to provide that access, this unrestricted, free, quality programming access.
Couldn't have said it better. Yeah, lots of stories. Now, I didn't start doing cons until about 3 years ago because of my twin dislikes of crowds and people.
Cheers.
But I'm really glad that I did, because I've received a lot of stories over the years. Of course, now, when I go to cons, I meet. This is a funny one. Just happened. Greenfield, Texas, 3 weeks ago. I'm doing a con, and there's this 12-year-old young man. He's coming up to my table, and he's very excited because I also do anime, and he's there because he wants to talk about the anime shows, right? And his mom is clearly just taking him along for the ride. She is there to carry things and pay for things. She looked at my banners of the little dog and just gently but firmly on the side of his head pushed him out of the way so that she could talk to me first. And when people who do what we do hear things like, "You were the voice of my childhood," I take that seriously every time. People don't just say that because they're blowing smoke up your butt. They mean it. And we've both got a million of those stories. I will share one with you that's hard to tell. I was at a con in Bangor, Maine last year, and a woman in her 30s came up. Let's call her Amy. And she had her 2 teenage kids with her, a boy and a girl. And as she approached my table, she started to cry. And her daughter came up and said she's been practicing what she was going to say to you. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what to do because she couldn't open her mouth. And so finally, instinct said, I just got up from my table and I walked around and I said, "Amy, is it okay if I give you a hug?" And she nodded, and so I hugged her, and she really broke down at that point. And when she finally was able to speak in my ear, out of earshot of everybody else, she said, "I grew up in an abusive household. Your show was the only escape I had." What do you say to that? You don't say a damn word, you just hug them harder. And so when people are willing to come up to us at cons and share those kinds of stories, they're not all that heavy, but anytime a person with great sincerity comes up and appreciates you for what you do for them, we will never take that for granted, ever. And so, you're the reason we're here, for crying out loud. So thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing your stories with us.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for meeting everyone at all of these cons and letting them share their stories and sharing that moment with them. That's amazing. I'm so glad that we get to do all of this together. That's wonderful. Here, let's swap a little bit, something easier to talk about. What was one of your favorite episodes to film in both of your shows? Do you have one that sticks out?
I do. Do you have one? No, I need to think. All right. Allie needs to think. We're at that age where we need to take a moment sometimes, all right? Give it a rest. My favorite episode of Wishbone was actually what we now call the Lost episode, because it only ever aired nationally one time. It was called The Canine Cure, and it was based on a play by Moliere called The Imaginary Invalid, which, if you know anything about Moliere, he wrote in an absurdist fashion. So every play he wrote, the characters were gaudily dressed and had huge hair and too much makeup in these live plays, and their acting was way over the top. Now, I am by nature, when I act, way over the top. But this was a time when the director said, "You're already at an 11 and I need you at a 15." And I said, yes. Yes. And that was so much fun. Now, the contemporary side of that story was that Joe's friend Nathaniel has come over for a sleepover. And this is a big deal because in the 90s, we didn't call them helicopter parents yet, but Nathaniel's mom was a helicopter parent. And it became very obvious to the audience very quickly that Nathaniel believed he was allergic to everything and everything made him sick. And he got this fear because his mother was so overbearing and told him these things. Which reminds Wishbone of The Imaginary Invalid, where our main character is convinced he's dying, and his evil family is trying to get him to change the will, and it's only his very young daughter who finally convinces him that he's not all this, it's all in his head, right? Or it's mostly in his head. So Nathaniel believes he's highly allergic to dogs. So rather than not let him sleep up, they stick Wishbone in the night.
Oh. If you start having mic problems, we have some on the couch.
There we go. Let's just pretend like that's working. So Wishbone decides on his own that he is going to prove to Nathaniel that he's not allergic to dogs. So he sneaks back into the house, crawls into bed with Nathaniel. The kid wakes up in the morning, he's fine, right? All's fair, happy ending, yay. That show aired one time, and the then president of PBS, Irvin Duggan, got a nasty letter from one parent who suggested that we were making fun of kids with our allergies. Now, Rick Duffield and I both wrote this woman back and said we both are sufferers of allergies. That's not the point. We would never do that. But apparently that's all that it took for PBS to go, whoa, 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 let's put the brakes on that one. So it was a shame because I thought it was some of the best work I'd done. I was finally starting to be able to keep up with this unbelievably trained group, this company of actors that we had for the fantasy side. We had a whole repertory company of people that would rotate in and out of roles. And every one of them was unbelievably talented. And when we started working on this show, the first thought I had was, I have to become a better actor fast. Like, I'm a smart ass, but I'm not an actor yet. And I was finally at the point where I thought, okay, with that performance, I think I'm starting to get there, right? And then it aired once, and that was it. Never saw it again. So that's mine. Have you had time to think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ish. I was listening to your story. I can't multitask like that. I think most of my favorite bits, a lot of my favorite bits were from Dance Academy moments. Just because we got to have so much fun. And like there's the episode with, well, and you could really, this is with live animals.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a duck on one episode, Dance Academy with the duck, but the bunnies, when I'm trying to teach them the bunny hop. So I'm going to put this in, I guess, a way that little ears won't be like, okay. So we had these 3 rabbits, and we very quickly realized, this is, you can't show this for children's television, because they would just instantly, the moment you put them on the ground, they were...
You know what they were doing. We don't have to spell it out.
So eventually they were like, okay, get rid of the female. We'll just have the male bunnies. Male bunnies do not care. And so instantly the music starts. They're doing it again. So they decided, they're like, okay, what if we have them, we'll turn it so they're not both facing that way where you're just setting them up for that. We'll just turn them to face each other. No, it just goes at his face.
And they'll
we started
never
the music
know.
and just goes at his face. Like we did not. Like eventually, I think I'm there and I'm dancing and the camera kind of sort of pans over more to me and I'm like, I shrug and I leave the dance academy. I think that's what we had to air with. Like it was like just pan away from the face motioning bunnies. So that one was a fun one.
Then you were on the therapist couch for a little while, I imagine.
They were adorable. It was just this is what, who thought working with live animals was a good way to go, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's true.
Do you have any stories about working with live animals?
No, Soccer was a complete professional. That guy was a better actor than most guys that ever came on set. He was a complete... And the trainers had hard and fast rules about that. You were never allowed to pet the dog, ever. Because he was a working dog, and he loses focus, right? So the focus needed to be on Jackie Captain and her team. And so it wound up training us in something called set discipline, where, there's a lot of times in between takes where there's just not a lot going on a film set, and people start to goof around, whatever. And we did, if Soccer was on set, we just didn't do that because we were all very keenly aware that he would lose focus and he needed to work. And he only had a certain amount of hours during the day that he could work. Same with the kids. Right, we had to get the kids on first thing in the morning, shoot their scenes, and get them done because they still had to go to school, and they had other responsibilities of being kids. But it's just funny, the old adage, and you've all heard it, is never work with kids and animals, and I made a whole freaking career out of it. It's great. I love it.
Well, we've talked about what the fans mean to PBS and for both of these shows, so I think it's time for fan questions if
Let's
you guys
do
would like
this.
to do some.
Yeah.
So right here in the front row, this is Brandon with the bun. So if you guys could line up with him, he's going to give you a mic.
Did you really just call him Brandon with the bun?
With the bun. Let's get some questions going.
Identifying characteristics.
I guess so, man.
Yeah.
What's your name and what's your question?
Hey, my name is David. Nice to see you. Okay, cool. Sorry to get specific. My question is with Wishbone. There are a lot of positives that stuck in my mind with that show, but one thing that still kind of terrifies me to this day are the Morlocks from the Time Machine episode.
Yep.
So I just wanted to get your opinion on those, or what practical effects stuck in your mind from that.
Soccer did not like the Morlocks at all. If you go back and watch that episode, you will not see a single two-shot with the dog and a Morlock. Because the first time he walked on set, if he had a middle finger, he would have stuck it at that thing and run. Jackie was like, and none of us had any idea what the Morlocks were going to look like. We've all read the book. We all know how they're described. But we had no idea that Stephen Kujay, our costume designer, and Gigi Coker, our hair and makeup person, were going to go so over the top with that stuff. So Jackie walks him onto set first day, and he didn't freak out, but he immediately turned around and was just like, "We're going back to my trailer." And she goes, "Guys, she's just honest, her exact words, there's no way. There's no way." So we had to reset scene, and then we had to reshoot stuff, or we had to shoot it differently. And, even the people who had to work with the Morlocks weren't huge fans. So, yeah, that was a good one.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
My name is Rob. So it's been a long time since I've seen either show, so here's a question for Alyson. Would Lunette have let Wishbone onto the big comfy couch?
I hear it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He would have probably taken a better care of the couch than Lunette ever did. So, yeah, I am curious how Wishbone and Snicklefritz would have gotten along. Yeah, and Wishbone, like the dust bunnies under the couch, they wouldn't stand a chance. No. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sorry, but I was wondering, did Soccer have a backup dog?
Oh yeah, so we had Soccer was our principal. In all the pictures and all the main shots, you see him. But then we had stunt doubles, and I still remember their names. We had Phoebe, Tish, Slugger, Shiner, and Bear.
That's so many.
Bear was actually a pup, and Bear was actually, because it had the show continued on to a third season. Soccer was getting ready to retire. Bear was going to be the one to take over the role. So he was on set every day learning the same stuff that Soccer was doing and learning. And then Phoebe, you could do anything to Phoebe and she did not care. You could truss her up and fly her around the set. And she's like, that's great, you guys! And then Slugger was our combat dog. So if you had to jump up and hit somebody in the chest or get them behind the knee, Slugger loved doing that. Shiner was our agility dog. So anytime you see running, jumping over stuff or crawling under stuff, that was always Shiner. So yeah, we had, and then Tish's thing was she could do the bang you're dead. So she would get up on her hind legs and you just go, pow, and she go, ugh. So yeah, that's a good question. We had all these stunt doubles, and I will just very quickly add this on. Again, the rule was you do not pet the dogs ever. I was sitting in a director's chair on set one day. We were inside the studio, and Brian Turry, second in command and animal trainer, had just finished working with Phoebe and had Phoebe off leash. So she was healing by him. And I'm sitting in a director's chair, and I just said, "Hey, Phoebes." And she immediately jumped up into my lap. And I'm sitting there like this, looking at Brian like, "I didn't do it." And Brian just looked at me and goes, "I guess you're in the family now." And there is a picture that exists, and I think it's on my Instagram page. My handle on Instagram, if you're interested, is Outlaw Larry. My daughter came up with it. Don't ask. It's stuck. I don't know why. But there's a picture of me and Phoebe. It's that same moment where she yawned, and so I mimicked her yawn, and it looks like we're death metal screaming. It's awesome. So, thank you for that question.
Hi, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, I'm Angel.
Hi, Angel.
Hello. I wanted to know on a book perspective, what books were you able to, or what books weren't you able to cover, or what books would you have loved to have covered?
That is a great question. I will tell you the one that I wish we had been able to do that we just didn't have the technology or budget for was Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, I would have loved that one.
That was the one that I always wanted to do. We all had ones that were our favorites. That one, I pitched that Stephanie Simpson, our head showrunner and our writer, and she goes, "Larry, I love that book. I love the story. It's, Wishbone would not have played Nemo. He would have played the doctor, the professor who makes the Faustian bargain with Nemo so he can go with him on these adventures." But she goes, the technology for us to be able to do that cinematically doesn't exist yet. And that is so far outside of even our big budget that there's just no way. And I was like, okay. But that's a great question. Thank you.
But it does exist now.
I know, right?
Like
if only we
a
had waited.
Wishbone 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea movie.
Oh.
Hi, feature film. Like,
Talk to Mattel. They own the IP.
do they?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly what I said. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Hi there, Buckle Bunny.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Jackie. Thank you. Thank you so much for all y'all do. But my question is for Wishbone. How integrated were the actors with the text? Was it a study? Was it a book club every episode? Or
Good questions coming from you people. I love it. So we got the script about a week in advance, and everyone was required to go through the script. Everyone was encouraged as much as they could within the amount of time they had to read the source material. I had it better than they did because they, of course, the on-camera actors have to memorize their lines. I don't have to memorize anything. I'm off set. But I did work on set with all the other actors. So I was there present. I was present for principal photography every day we shot. So I always had a copy in my back pocket of every book. Some of them I had read prior to shooting. Some of them I read while we were shooting, and others I would have to start once we had begun doing that. Frankenstein was the big rewrite. So again, Stephanie Simpson's rule, she was our showrunner and head writer, and her rule was we will never write down to kids. Kids get it. They understand it. right? So if the themes are difficult, we're not going to shy away from that, whatever. So Chris Henry, our production designer, had gone out of his way to create these fantastic sets of Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory. And we do the creation scene, and it's dark and it's scary. Unfortunately, that scene had been written as though it were young Frankenstein, because I think the writer of that particular episode, name withheld for legal reasons, got a little gun shy. So it's now time for me to re-record all those lines clean. We're in the studio, and when it was record time, it was always me, Stephanie Simpson, and Rick Duffield, and then our sound designer, Perry Robertson. And I start going through this scene, and I'm reading the text, and I'm like, guys, I saw Stephanie shaking her head, I'm shaking my head, and so Stephanie goes, hang on. So she ran out of the control room and ran to her office, and I knew exactly what she was doing. I ran out of the booth, and I ran to my office. We both came back with our dog-eared copies of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and we rewrote half of that show on the fly, because we were never going to air it the way it was written, because we would have been going back on our word to not write down to kids. So everyone was very familiar with the source material. That was a great question, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for all of your great questions and for being here with us today to talk about PBS and its importance and these amazing shows. Can we give Larry and Alyson a big round of applause?
Thank you guys so much for coming out. That's awesome. Some of you are just fantastically adorned today. You're looking good. Looking real good. So.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your NostalgiaCon.